I hope you're fine, you're okay. So today we're going to finish with this module related to speaking. Yeah? And next week, we're going to start another module. No, we're just getting to the end of these modules. We're in module 7, then you have 8, 9, and 10. So we have 3 more. Okay, so as you can remember, the last session, we were talking about the stages, no? The stages that we have when we develop this skill of speaking, no? Similar to the stages that we have in a lesson, no? In a lesson, we have the pre, while, and post, no? Stages. Well, when we talked about speaking, we could divide it also in pre, while, and post, but here we decided to divide it in 3 parts, and 2 of them are the appropriation and autonomy. So in order to start, we're going to make feedback, no? Remember, in order to remember some points that we talked about the last week. So we have 2 weeks, no, that we couldn't have this class. So remember, no, here we have 2 important points when we want to talk, when we want to speak, no? So we need some knowledge. Remember, this is some part of or one aspect, a very important aspect when we want to speak. And knowledge, no, what knowledge is required for speaking, and how can this knowledge be made available for use, availability, no? Remember about these 2 points, no? Knowledge and availability. So knowledge, remember that we have or is related to all the linguistic information about the language, no? Pronunciation, grammar, the markers, discourse markers, vocabulary. So all the things that involve the linguistic information related to the language. And the availability, remember, is when you are ready to use all this knowledge, all this linguistic information to speak. So in order to speak, we have these 2 important aspects, right? The knowledge and the availability. Don't forget about it. Don't forget about it. So when we talked about availability, remember, when we talked about availability, we have 3 processes. Can you remember what they are? What are the 3 processes involved in availability? Can you remember?
Good evening, teacher.
Good evening, Lucy.
Awareness, appropriation, and the other is
awareness,
appropriation, autonomy,
yes.
And autonomy.
That's it. Yes, we have these 3 processes, no? Awareness, appropriation, and autonomy. Don't forget about this. These 3. So when we talked about the awareness, we're talking about that the learners need to become aware, no, need to be conscious. No, where is it to say conscious of the features of the target knowledge base, no? So they need to be aware. And when we talked about the appropriation, that this is what we are going to talk about today, no, the appropriation, we are going to analyze some activities. No, I want to show you some activities to develop this process. So appropriation means they need to integrate. Once they become conscious about this knowledge, this target knowledge, now they need to integrate these features into their own knowledge base. And finally, so they develop the capacity to mobilize these features under real-time conditions. And notice these 3 processes. Now, 3 processes that let us speak, not talk. So first, we need to be conscious about these features of the language. Then we are going to integrate these features of the language to our own knowledge base. And then we are going to be able to use these features in real-time conditions. So this is the autonomy. So notice these three processes, and remember, there's three processes that we have when we speak, no? And the last class we were talking about the first one, no? Awareness raising activities. So inside awareness raising activities, we have three processes too. So we have the attention, noticing, and understanding, no? So we have these three. Attention. When we are going to catch the attention of our students, they're going to be interested, no? They're going to be interested. Noticing that they are going to remark, no? Some structures, some patterns, and understanding, so they are going to realize what they are learning, all right? What they are acquiring. So notice these three processes, all right, in the awareness process when we talked about availability. No, remember, availability is divided into three: awareness, appropriation, and autonomy. Awareness is divided by itself in three processes too: attention, noticing, and your understanding. No, so notice here, attention is students need to be on alert, as I told you, interested, involved, curious, if they are going to notice features of the touch skill. No, so they need to be on alert. No? Noticing is the conscious registering of the occurrence of some event or entity. So they also notice the difference between their own performance and other people's performance. The gap, no? Notice here when we talked about the gap, they notice the gap, all right? Of their own knowledge, no? They can notice the gap of their own knowledge, or maybe they start comparing, no? They start comparing with other people's performance. So we have two gaps, no? When they recognize what they need to learn, what they don't know, and they need to know, but at the same time, they compare with other people's performances, right? So this is noticing the gap, no? Remember that we talked about it. And finally, the recognition of a general rule or principle or pattern. This is the understanding, no? So we talked about these processes in the awareness, all right? In the awareness. And we saw different activities, no? Different activities in order to raise awareness in our students, all right? Now, today we're going to talk about the second process, that is appropriation. Appropriation. What do you mean by appropriation? Tell me your own ideas. In general, appropriation. What do you mean? What do you mean? Appropriation. What's the first thing you have in your mind when you hear appropriation? No, nobody. Appropriation. What is that? As a general idea, what's the meaning of appropriation?
Teacher, when you take or capture the idea or the meaning of something?
Yeah, all right. When you take or capture the idea of something, yeah, all right. But as a general term, imagine that we are not talking about teaching. We're not talking about teaching. What is the literal meaning of appropriation? No, nobody? This word is similar to Spanish, right? No idea about the meaning of appropriation. In general terms, we're not talking about specifically the process of teaching, no? Because here we're going to make a relationship of this concept with the process of teaching this skill, right? Or the process of speaking, no? Or developing this skill. Well, Leslie.
Could be, yes, teacher. Could be activities like practicing repetition, writing, reading, any other thing.
Yeah, all right. As I told you, yeah, this is the meaning related to teaching, no? Related to teaching, no? When you do many different activities to construct the knowledge, all right? As Cindy wrote in the chat, and also Leslie says, no, you practice, you drill, you repeat, no, then you continue practicing the conversations, no? So you do different activities. But as a general term, no, because my question was to get the general idea of this word, no, this concept. Appropriation, in simple words, is to make something yours, right? This is not mine. No, it's mine. Notice, this is a general, the literal meaning of appropriation, right? So to make something yours. You appropriate, no? For example, if you don't have a cell phone, maybe you take the cell phone and you make it yours. So it means that you appropriate that object, right? Something similar happens with the language. Once you have recognized the structure, the patterns in the first process, no? The first process, the awareness is that you are going to be able to recognize, no? To notice, to understand the structure. Now, after this process, you have to make this pattern, this structure, these features of the language yours. Notice, this is the general meaning of appropriation. So, here, appropriation, as one of your partners said, is that collaborative construction where over time and through social interaction, the skill is appropriated. So it means that this skill, you make this skill yours. The skill is appropriated into the learner, doing many different things. No, here says through social interaction, all right? And you're going to construct collaborative. Notice, not alone, collaborative construction through social interaction, and it makes you appropriate these features of the language, these structures, these patterns, and make it yours, make them yours, all right? So this is the meaning of this term, no? Appropriation. Remember, once you have noticed, you understood, now you need to make these features yours, all right? So don't forget it, and you're going to do many things, no? Here to make this structure, these features yours. And this is what we are going to see now. I'm going to show you different activities, different activities. I know maybe you have used them before, maybe not, no, maybe not. Maybe some of them are new for you, all right? But as I told you to the other classes, to the other lessons, so these are just ideas, no? Then you take this idea and try to adapt, no? This is very important to change it maybe according to the level of your students, according to the social context of your students. No, it depends. We have a lot of factors, no? According to the age of your students, no? So we have a lot of factors. But the most important is to get to have ideas, no? Because sometimes when we want to teach something, we don't know what to do. No, what am I gonna do? No, I did this the last class. I'm going to do the same. No. My students are going to get bored. So the purpose here is that you have ideas, no? Different ideas to develop this skill, no? When you teach this skill in your class. No, this is the purpose. No, this is the purpose. So you have the ideas and then, oh yeah, so I remember this that I saw on the last session. Yeah, but I need to rearrange. No, I need to adapt because it's not according to the level. So maybe you adapt. No, then we are going to talk about this a little bit. The famous term scaffolding. I don't know if you have heard it before. Scaffolding. So this is very important. No? Okay, so let's see here. One of the most common, let me tell you that this activity was used a long time ago, but they are helpful until now. Sometimes we say, no, teacher, this is all. No, we don't use this activity anymore. But let me tell you that if you do this at the beginning, they are very useful. All right. Drilling and chants. Drilling. What is drilling? Have you heard this term before? Drilling. Drilling. Chants. Maybe you have heard it before. This is more common. All right. Chants, similar to say songs. No, very short songs with rhymes, maybe with some specific vocabulary. No, chants. And drilling. What is drilling? Anybody? Anybody? Aha, Cindy says repeating. Yeah, all right, all right, all right. Anybody else? Anybody else about drilling?
Teacher is like memorize something or memorize the lesson, for example.
Yeah, it involves a little of memory, yeah. You need to memorize. Yeah, all right, all right.
Teacher, good evening. My name is Diana. Drilling is a technique.
Yeah, it's a technique. Yes, this is a technique.
Okay, repeat.
Yeah, it involves repeating. Yes, all right. Yeah, you have some idea about it. Yes, drilling, as you tell me, is imitating and repeating words, phrases, and whole utterances. All right. So you have words, phrases, and whole utterances. Remember, utterances are the statements in an oral way. No, this is the utterances. So you told me that it's imitating, it's repeating, not just words, but phrases and utterances. Or you could say sentences. No, utterances is similar to say sentences, but when we talked about in an oral language, we call them utterances. So drilling, as one of your partners told us, is a useful noticing technique. Notice, a way to move new items from working memory to long-term memory is related to memory. I mean, to gain articulatory control over language. So let's see some example. The first one is to store. Drilling helps in storing and retrieving chunks as whole units. Then fluency, it is fluency enhancing technique. We need to focus on stress and intonation. Notice here you can focus on stress and intonation. Notice these two aspects of drilling. Yeah, it helps us in the process of storing. Okay, storing and retrieving chunks. Remember, chunks. So a group of words. Remember, chunks are groups of words. And also we reinforce stress and intonation. Notice here, you can have this, no? You can give them the opportunity to repeat these phrases, no? When you are maybe creating a conversation, so you start drilling, no? So you ask your students to drill. It means that they need to repeat, no? By the way, for example, here you have these course markers. By the way, well, I remember, that reminds me, before I forget, as I was saying, talking of which, or sentence starters. Do you mind if do you think you could? The thing is, would it be okay if, do you happen to know, or social formulas and useful expressions? How do you do? Can I take a message? See you later. How do you spell that? Just looking, thanks. Catchphrases and idiomatic phrases. Better late than never. It's on the tip of my tongue. Long time no see. The sooner the better. Look who's talking. And you make your student repeat, no? Yeah, remember, we are going to use this expression in this conversation. By the way, and by the way, or maybe the social formulas, no? How do you do? Notice that you can reinforce here the stress and intonation. No? Can I take a message? So you can reinforce this. How do you spell that? Repeat, please. How do you spell that? And then they need to use that, no? Yeah, now you work in pairs and you are going to ask your partner to spell something. No, maybe using realia, no? Yeah, okay. Ask your partner to spell this object, for example, cell phone. Yeah, how do you spell that? Yeah, the other, now change roles. Yeah, how do you spell that? Notice you're drilling. This is drilling because you are repeating the same phrase a lot of times, no? Yeah, another pair, volunteers, and they repeat the same. How do you spell? How do you spell? How do you spell? Notice you're drilling. You're using this technique of drilling, all right? Another is here, another example of drilling. Here you have the recording and the students, no? So you have a short conversation. Hey, Barry, what a great tie. Thanks. Actually, I've had it for ages, but I never wear it. And the other student says, it suits you. And you stop. Notice, just stop. So this is the recording. This is the recording of the audio. So they are listening to the audio. They are listening to the conversation. And you stop. You make a pause. And make your students repeat. Yeah, repeat. It suits you. It suits you. Because sometimes your students, when they see the letter U and I, they say it suits you, no, or suits you. So they are not used to omit the sound E in this word, no? Suits, suits. Yeah, it suits you. Yeah, and then as you notice here on the other side, so the teacher makes the students repeat this as a chorus, the whole class, and then maybe individually. Now you repeat it. It suits you. Maybe some students that you know, no, you can realize that they have some problems in order to pronounce some words. So you can make the students reinforce this part, no? Yeah, you, Clara, it suits you. It suits you, maybe 1, 2, or 3, and then you continue, right? You continue with the audio. Listen, Barry, we're thinking, do you fancy lunch together sometime this week? And the other bee says, that'd be nice. Now, again, notice, drilling. Yeah, again. So notice, the purpose here of the teacher, first, is to make the students notice these patterns, notice this structure, notice this feature, and they can make this structure theirs, all right? And also you focus on the pronunciation, the stress, the intonation. That'd be nice. Again, that'd be nice. First as a whole class, and then individually. Remember, this is drilling, all right? This is drilling. And the other one is the chants. Now here you have some chants. A funny thing happened. What happened? A funny thing happened to Lee. It's funny how things like that happen. The same thing happened to me. An awful thing happened. What happened? An awful thing happened to Jim. It's awful how things like that happen. The same thing happened to him. Notice, it's like a rhyme, not like a poem, no? And notice you're practicing here, happen. No? A funny thing happened. What happened? A funny thing happened to Lee. Notice here, they change, maybe not funny, awful. You're reinforcing maybe adjectives. Notice with this chant, you're reinforcing adjectives. Funny, now with awful, now with terrible. Oh yeah, a terrible thing happened. What happened? A terrible thing happened to Carlos, or maybe to rhyme, maybe you could change or you could use another name, no? Oh, it's terrible how things like that happen. The same thing happened to me. And notice You're reinforcing adjectives, or maybe you're reinforcing the question, what happened? No, what happened? What happened? So you're using this chant. Notice here you could use this activity to make your students appropriate these features or structures of the language. Let's continue. Miling. Miling, an activity that requires the students to walk around and ask questions to complete a survey or finding a close match. I know that you have used this activity before, no? Because this is very common, no? To make your students interact, no? Interact. For example, in the first activities, you have an interaction, but mostly with the teacher, no? Because the teacher makes you repeat and then you repeat, you know? No, the interaction is more with the teacher. But in Miling, you interact with, the students interact each other, all right? The students interact each other. For example, no? You want to reinforce the structure of have you ever. For example, I use a lot this activity. No, have you ever? And I give my students a list of different experiences, and they need to ask, no, they need to stand up and walk around the class and find a person who have had that experience and write a name. No, oh yeah, Carlos, have you ever eaten sushi? No, I haven't. Okay, now this person goes to another person, no? To another student. Have you ever eaten sushi? Yes, I have. All right, Maria. No, and I mean like a contest. No, the person who finished first. No, we use the 5 experiences, not a long list. No, 5 experiences, and the person who finishes first, so receive a prize. No, maybe 2 points more. No, so you have here different forms to motivate your students to complete the task. No, so this is called miling. Remember, miling. So you ask, the students are required to stand up, walk around, and ask questions to complete a survey of finding a close match. No, this is very important. Okay. Oh, this is a very common activity. Find someone who, no? Find someone who like the color blue, likes the color blue, or lives near you. No? So notice these activities are related to this, no? Miling, all right? Let's continue. Another activity to make your students appropriate structures, patterns, features of the language is writing task. Notice they are going to write. Let's see. Act as a way of easing the transition from learning to using. One way of slowing down the speaking process is to turn the speaking task into a writing one. Now, for example, these kind of activities is they are useful for students who are just starting to learn the language, no? In order not to get frustrated, no? In order to gain confidence, no? First they write it and then they tell or start speaking, no? This is very important to remember. But again, as I told you with other activities, the teacher needs to be careful, no? Not overuse it. All right, this is very important. Not overuse it, because students could get accustomed to do write and write and write and then speak. So they are not going to get autonomy. The other, all right? They could appropriate, but they couldn't get autonomy. All right, so you must be careful, all right? Not overuse it. So here we have dictation, computer-mediated chat. We have rewriting and paper conversation. Let's see each of them. Dictation. Teacher dictates useful expressions and the learners write things down. They then will write dialects incorporating expressions from the dictated list. So notice it. This is an idea. Remember, this is an idea. How to use dictation. No, not just to that. My dear students, write 5 sentences. Listen to me. A different way of dictation. No, here you are not dictating the sentences. You dictate expressions. Yeah, now you're going to listen to 5 expressions that you're going to use in a conversation. So they write expressions. No? So you dictate expressions and they start writing. And then they will write conversations or dialogues incorporating these expressions. All right. So notice it's a different way, no? Because when we say, dictation, oh, teacher, yeah, you dictate sentences to the student. No, 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 no. Yeah. So this is another way. No, this is another way. You dictate expressions. And with those expressions, they are going to write a conversation. Another one, and nowadays is very common, no? Nowadays, these activity is very common, and we could use it in our classroom too. Maybe we don't have the technology, but we can adequate it, no? We can adequate it. We can simulate that we are chatting. Nowadays, we have this famous app, no? The WhatsApp web. So you can imagine that you are chatting with your friend, like you were talking, as we were talking on the previous lessons or sessions. Nowadays, this informal writing, it's becoming more and more similar to what you speak or how you speak, right? So you can use it. You can use it. Notice. Chatting on the internet by changing short timelines of text. No? So you tell, yeah, try to imagine that you're chatting with your friend to invite him or her to a party. So they start chatting. So it is an effective way of talking in slow motion. Notice you are simulating that you are talking, but in a slow motion. The talk is slowed down by the need to type, creating attention space. For example, oh, no, this is not, yeah. Here you have this, yeah, remember, so you can, oh, yeah, teacher, but my students don't have the app, no? They don't have cell phones. So you can, for example, when I use this, but not with this WhatsApp web. I use this, for example, I use with, there was an old platform, Hi-Fi. I don't know if you can remember. It was before the WhatsApp web. Yeah, Hi-Fi was a platform where you can chat. So what did I do? I recreate on a page, no? On a page, I print, no? The framework of a Hi-Fi platform. And they start writing, no, simulating that they are typing. Because sometimes we don't have the computers or laptops, no, we don't have a lap. So you simulate, no, on a piece of paper. So I printed the, for example, you can print the framework or WhatsApp web, and you give to your students. Yeah, in this page, on this paper, you're gonna chat. Not simulating that they are chatting or talking. Remember, when they chat, they are talking in slow motion. So you can simulate that. No, you can simulate that, because I know that they don't, or they are not able to use cell phones in a class, no? But you can simulate it, no? You can give them printed pages, simulating the WhatsApp web, and they start writing on these pages or papers, no? So you can do that. Now, the other one, is this, that they are going to rewrite. No? They are going to rewrite some conversations. Notice here, you give them this conversation and you ask them to rewrite it. Maybe you ask them to change the register. For example, this is an informal conversation. Now, how could you write it in a formal way? Oh, yeah, teacher. You say good afternoon, good morning. Instead of hello, good afternoon, good morning. Okay, now maybe another structure. Yeah, now maybe you talked about indirect questions. Yeah, notice that you have in this conversation direct questions. Now rewrite a conversation using indirect questions. Oh, yeah, okay, hello. Could you tell me what your name is? And they start rewriting. Notice they rewrite a conversation and then they perform it in class. No? They rehearse and perform it in class. So you could use this activity. Notice you use writing to promote speaking, right? To gain confidence, to gain confidence. And with that, they can appropriate, no? They can appropriate these features of the language, no? So you have, my name is Juan. Now, use more informal, make it more real. Oh yeah, teacher, more real. Yeah. Hello, what's your name? Oh, Juan. So you don't say my name is Juan, right? So you just say Juan. It's more real, like they were talking. So notice, you could ask them, no, according to the age, according to the level, no, according to the social context. So you can ask them to rewrite some conversations. Oh, what's going on here? Doesn't want to work. Yeah. The other one is the paper conversation. Students will have a conversation with their classmate via writing on a shared paper. Teachers can make corrections or improvement while they are writing the conversation. So, for example, I use this activity. I think it was from the second grade, secondary. Yeah. So I give each pair, because I divided the class in pairs. Yeah, you have here this pair. You're going to use this paper to create a conversation. And I made a student sit in front. So face to face. All right. Yeah, you start. And I gave the paper to the first student, student A. Yeah. Start the conversation. Yeah. They start. Now give the paper to your partner. And the other student needs to answer. If you want to make it like a game, like a contest, so you can give them a time, no? Yeah, you have 20 seconds, 30 seconds to answer. Yeah, so they read an answer. Yeah, now give to your partner. And like this, you make your students interact, right? They are creating a conversation, but notice, spontaneously, because you give them short time, no? You don't give them a long time to think what to write, no? So you're simulating speaking, right? You're simulating speaking. Yeah, now give your partners the paper back. Yeah, start writing, answer. And you can check, yeah, this is right. Okay, continuous. So here you, maybe because of the time, you have to do it with some pairs, no? Not all the whole class. If you have more than 30 or 40 students, so well, I think it would be impossible to do it with all the students. No? But here you can give them this opportunity to interact, not to interact. So notice you use writing to promote speaking. Right now, when you finish, yeah, okay, now you're going to do it at the front, no performing. They perform the conversation. So this is the paper conversation. Notice this is a paper conversation. Another is reading aloud. Reading aloud provides a secure framework within which learners can focus on lower level features of talk. It's a form of scaffolding. Writing tasks lead them to a reading aloud stage. You know, once they have written something, a conversation, a dialogue, so what they're going to do is to read this conversation aloud, right? They perform the written dialogue to the class, and it can be a trial for listener. Tend to overlook the importance of suprasegmental features. Remember this term. Suprasegmental features refers to intonation, stress, rhythm, no? So you can get focused on these aspects, all right, related to the pronunciation, because it's the lower levels features of talk, no? So notice you can use this too, all right? So once they have written, so they read the conversations aloud. No, I use this activity specifically with lower level students, no? I made it to write a conversation. I give them some minutes to prepare it, and they read aloud, and I can control. Notice this is easy for us because you can control. Yeah, you can check, you can realize what they need to improve, all right? So, and they can improve it at the same time, right? So, oh yeah, don't forget, please, the intonation, raise up, raise down. So notice here these aspects, no? It's related to the suprasegmental features. Assisted performance and scaffolding. So a learning session assisted by a very one through scaffolding. No, remember, scaffolding means to go step by step. No, you construct something step by step. You give some help to your students. No, it's very important that to give your students some help that they need. They need to construct something. How? So teacher builds on the contribution during the open class talk. Teacher can help in starting the discussion, offering opinions, rephrasing sentences, all right? So you help your students and they can learn better, all right? They can learn better. So they are prepared to do it better because they receive your help. You give them some ideas, you give them some opinions, or maybe you start the conversation or the discussion, or you rephrase some sentences. So that's why we call this assisted performance and scaffolding. Another one are the dialects. So a conversation between two or more people as a feature of a book, play, or a film. Teacher takes role A, student one takes role B. Notice here the teacher takes a role and the student the other role. Students 2 takes role A, teacher takes role B. Student 3 takes role A, student 4 takes role B. Open pairs, so you can here divide students into pairs. Repeat as necessary with different students. So notice first is the teacher. The teacher interacts, with the other student. One role, the student another role, and vice versa with other student. Now student 2 takes the role A and teacher takes role B. So like you are modeling, right? You're giving the model how to do it. And then 2 students. Student 3, student 4. And you can divide the students into pairs. Notice, this is called scaffolding. Right? So you help your students how to do it. All right? How to do it. Students in close pairs take roles A and B and then switch roles. Selected students enact the dialogue in front of the class. Notice here you have this process, this process, because sometimes because it happens to me too. It doesn't mean that I did everything I say in detail. No, I have to omit some parts. And I know that sometimes the time is so fast, no? So, but here you have these ideas, these ideas how to start a conversation, a dialogue in your students, all right? Another one is items on board. What are you gonna do? First, The teachers isolates and drills a number of expressions. Notice, isolates and drills a number of expressions, such communication strategy formulas as how do you say. It's one of those things that from a dialogue, not from a taped dialogue or recorded dialogue. No? So notice the teacher first isolates, separates. No? Isolate means separates. No? Separates and drills a number of expressions. Here is giving an example. No? So you want to develop some communication strategy in your students, so you isolate these expressions, no? In order to communicate better, no? Remember, communication strategy helps you to communicate, not to talk, not to be afraid of talking. How do you say? Oh, it's one of those things that, these are the communication strategy formulas, no? So this is the first thing. Then the teacher writes this on the board and leaves them there as learners attempt a speaking activity, such as buying items in a department store. So notice you stick or write, no, here says write. The teacher writes this on the board and leaves these expressions, no, these expressions, because the students are going to use them in speaking. All right. Here it gives an example. No, you want your students to buy something in a department store, in a shop, or in a mall. So they use these expressions. All right. They use these expressions. As the learners incorporate these expressions into their talk, the items successfully wrapped off the board. Notice, what do you do next? You take them out. So you erase it. You take this from the board. Notice, you disappear them. Right? In other words, you disappear them. They don't see it on the board anymore. All right? So notice, this is the activity. So while they are inserting these expressions in the conversation, you erase it. Yeah, you use it. Yeah, use it. Yeah, you erase it. You erase it. You erase it. Maybe some of your students, teacher, no, not yet, not yet. But they need to remember. No. Yeah, I erase this. Oh, no. Yeah. Could you recognize this? Yeah, yes. I remember that. So you make your students recognize and catch the expressions, no? Before they are elicited. But remember, maybe you can give the instruction that in a short period of time, I'm going to start erasing the expressions. So they, okay, we have to remember the expressions, try to remember the expressions, because our teacher is going to erase them. Notice, so you use this, okay, you use it, and they are going to start talking. No? They are going to create the conversation or the talking. Another is chunks on card. Chunks on card, chunks. What are the chunks? I told you, a few minutes ago, I told you, chunks.
Short phrases?
Yeah, phrases, huh? Oh, fixed expressions that we usually use in different functions, huh? In different purposes of communication. So we have these chunks. Remember, chunks on card. Students work in pairs to have a dollar, and each has a set of cards with useful expressions on them, such as, by the way, speaking of which. So you give them some expressions, no? Useful expressions in cards, no? Remember, in cards. The idea is to include as many of these features into the conversation as naturally as possible as it develops, adding the card to a discard pile each time it is used. So they are playing, notice, this is like a game where they're playing cards. So they use the expression and put it aside, no? They put the expression of the card aside. So the person or the student, no, to discard all their cards is the winner. All right, this is like a game. All right, so you give your students some cards, maybe 3 or 4 cards for each one, and they start talking or creating the conversation. Once one of the students has used the card, so the card is this card, and the person, the student who discard all the cards is the winner. Okay? Notice you use this activity like a game. No? The purpose is that your students could interact. Maybe, as I told you, no phrases, maybe words. Maybe they are at the beginning level, elementary level, so you can give them words related. Maybe imagine that you have the vocabulary related to feelings, emotions. Yeah, you give some cards to your students, 3 or 4 cards with different adjectives expressing feelings, emotions, and they are going to create a conversation with this. No? Oh, yeah, yesterday I felt sad because I saw a very, very terrible film. Oh, yeah, and the other student says, no, oh, what a pity. Oh, well, yesterday I felt nervous because I saw a horror film, or frightened, no? Or frightened because I saw a horror film. I know, maybe you could use verbs. No? Imagine that you talked about, or you work with a present simple. And now, create a conversation talking about your routines. Okay. And you give 4 cards to your student with verbs, no, that we usually use to talk about routines, no? Oh, yeah. I go to school. Maybe you should go to school, no? I go to school from Monday to Friday. What about you? Oh, yes, me too. And I get home, and maybe you get home, and I get home at 1 o'clock. Just with simple sentences. Remember, you cannot equate it as you want, no? So here you have the idea, but now you have to adapt it, no? You have to adapt it according to the topic, according to the level of your students, according to the social context. Ooh, you can do many things, no? But the most important is that you have the idea, and then you can adapt it, no? So notice they are playing, no? They are playing cards, but they are creating a conversation at the same time with some words, with some expressions. You give them this expression. Remember, they need to know all the words, no? Because if they don't know the words, they are not going to be able to create a conversation. So it's very important to pre-teach the vocabulary, and they can start talking. So this is at the beginning, no? In the awareness. In the awareness, you pre-teach the vocabulary. And then in the appropriation, so you give the cards, no? And they start talking. Let's continue with the dialogues. Now here we have another activity. This is bingo. No, I know that you have played this game with your students a lot because it's very common. It's very common. But here we're going to change it a little bit. Discussion bingo. This is taken from a book. No? You're going to play a game of bingo. Follow the rules below. Notice the rules. You're going to divide your students in groups, no? Maybe groups of 3. Each of the student has one of the bingo cards below. Notice here you have 3 bingo cards. Choose a topic from the box or choose one of your own and start a discussion. Well, this is for more advanced level students, intermediate or advanced level students. But again, you cannot equate it. You cannot equate it. As you are speaking, you must try to use all the expressions on your bingo card. Each time you use one, cross it off. When you have used all of the expressions on your card, shout bingo. As long as the other group members are happy that you choose the expressions correctly, you are the winner. So here you have the topics, no? Taste, identity, learning English, art, luck, good food, the 21st century, city and life, personality, no? And then here you have the cards, no? Card A, B, and C. You have some expressions, some chunks. Notice these are chunks, all right? These are chunks. Talking of, it seems that when I was younger, I'd often, not necessarily because, I really regret, oh, come on, and the other, frankly, no, going out of times, I really do wish. So these expressions are more related to create a discussion. No? That's why he says discussion bingo. But again, you can adapt it. No? You can adapt it. Similar to the previous game, playing cards, now they are going to play bingo. Instead of discarding the cards, so they cross the words. No, you can do the same, no? You're working with vocabulary related to feelings, emotions. You give them, no, a card with some words related to feelings and emotions. And if they use this word in a conversation, so they cross. They cross. Yeah, I complete. Ah, bingo. I finished. Yes. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, you use all the words, all the expressions. And you cannot equate it. You cannot equate it. So there's a bingo. Notice you use bingo to promote, to encourage talking, speaking. Because most of the time we use bingo just to recognize some vocabulary, right? No, we use it, for example, to work with numbers, or you work with the simple past verbs, no? Because I use a lot with this, like this, but sometimes I use it with the speaking part, no? Because most of the time bingo is used just to reinforce some vocabulary, to recognize some vocabulary, no? Another one with the dialects, memorizing scripts. First, ask students to order a jumbled dialogue. Notice, so you give your students a jumbled dialogue. So it means a conversation dialogue in disorder. So they need to reorder, all right? So you ask your students to order a jumbled dialogue. They could hear the dialogue and then line by line, repeat after it. So you pause in one line and they repeat the line. Then you pause again and repeat the line. Useful chunks can be drilled more thoroughly. And if you want, you can do something similar to the drilling, no? You make your student listen to a conversation and you stop. And they start drilling, no? Some words, some specific words or chunks. Students then practice the dialogue in pairs until they can do it from memory. So they practice, you give them some minutes, yeah, practice. Then you're going to go to the front, no? And perform it without papers, no? Without papers. Remember, if you want to do that, so it needs to be with a short conversation, no short dialogues. You have a long conversation, no, because it's difficult and it needs more time, no, to memorize it. So try to work with very short conversations and some specific or useful expressions or chunks, and they notice another variant, so they can also practice variants of the dialogue, substituting different items. Once they have learned the conversation, now change some words. For example, I use this activity a lot. No, I give them the opportunity to practice conversations, and then they change. For example, when I work, for example, this 2 weeks ago, yes, 2 weeks ago, when we working with health problems. No, they went to the doctor, no, and they develop a conversation. They perform the conversation. Now, change the health problem or change the response of the doctor or the nurse. So they change that and perform it again. Notice here, you can create a variant. No? So they memorize it and they change some part. No, the complete, no, the whole dialogue. Some parts, some expressions, some words. All right? And you can practice more vocabulary, no? As I told you, no, I worked with this activity with my student 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. All right. Yeah, here you have, no? Yes, it's first on the right after the lights. Yes, thanks very much. Excuse me, you're welcome. So notice that here you have short, very short, no? Very short conversations with some useful expressions. Don't tend to make your students memorize long conversations with long sentences. No, it's going to be very complicated and helpful too. Picture and word cues. The dialogue can be represented on the board either in the form of drawings or word prompts. The drawings need to be very sophisticated. They are simple there as a memory aid. As the learners become more proficient at the dialogue, the prompts can be erased one by one. So notice you use pictures or you use prompts, no, word prompts or word cues to help your students create a conversation. Look at here one example. Imagine that you are working invitations, no? Accepting and refusing. So students write short invitation conversations using the pictures as cues. Useful vocabulary is provided below. Also, you give them, notice, some expressions too, no? Some prompts. You have the pictures. Yeah, with these pictures, they need to create a conversation, but notice that you're giving them the function. It's very important, no? To help them. This is called scaffolding, all right? Notice, yeah, create a conversation, that's it. No, so you need to give them some cues, some useful expressions, some context to develop the conversation, all right? And here you give them some pictures. Yeah, with these pictures, yeah, okay, I can send the picture to women. The first women, oh yeah, it's in the mall. Oh yeah, so she's going to buy the other girl to the mall. Okay, do you want to, or would you like to come with me to the mall? Notice they are using the expressions, using the drawings, using the pictures, and they start creating a short conversation. And in order to respond, oh yeah, on the other side I have the response. Okay, oh, thank you, I love to. Sounds great, sounds like fun. Notice, you give the students pictures, drawings, and some prompts. And with these pictures and prompts, word prompts, they are going to create a conversation. No, for example, in the second picture, oh yeah, there's two friends, I think so. Yeah, the man is going to invite a woman. Oh, and a karaoke, I think, because they are singing. Okay, yeah. Okay, teacher. Yeah. There's a party tonight. There's a karaoke party tonight. Would you like to go with me? Would you like to go? And they will say, oh, thank you. I love to. Very short. Notice, it doesn't mean that you have to create a long conversation. No. Useful expression. It's very important for our students to start talking, to give them expressions, useful expressions that they could use in different purposes of communication or different contexts or different functions. This is very important. This is a way that they are going to start talking, right? they're gonna start talking. All right, I use this a lot too. I use this activity a lot. If I students pictures, prompts, and they have to recreate a conversation. Another one that I use a lot too, the flow diagram conversation. This is like a flow chart, no? Like a flow chart. So step 1, step 2, no? The flow chart is to indicate a process, no? You use specifically flow charts to indicate a process, no? First, you need to do that, then you need to, or you need to go there, then do that. No, this is a flow chart, no? Like a diagram. That's why here's this flow diagram, conversations. It involves representing a dialogue in terms of its speech acts. Notice speech acts or functions. Now remember, the speech acts or functions or purposes of communication. What are the speech acts or functions? Greeting, inviting, no, requesting, promising, calling. No, this is the purposes of communication. You talked or you speak to somebody else to greet, to ask, to request, to invite, to apologize. Yeah? This is the way you talk or you speak. Students in pairs perform the dialogue following a route through the different functions, selecting from memory appropriate expressions for the different speech acts. Notice here the example. Student A, greet B. B, greet A. A, offer B something. B, accept or refuse. So the student needs to decide if they accept or refuse. If they accept, so A offers something else. And again, B accept or refuse. And if the student B refuses, so A insist. And again, B accept or refuse. Okay? Notice this is a flow chart, no? A route. That's why here is a route, no? The steps, how they are going to develop the conversation, all right? How they are going to develop the conversation. So you say, yeah, first I need to greet. And B says, yeah, I'm going to return the greeting. And then I need to offer something to my partner. And B says, oh, once my partner have offered me something, I need to decide if I accept or not, or if I refuse it. Notice, you use this flow chart. No? This is a flow diagram. And if you notice, you're working with functions, the speech acts, greeting, offering, accepting, refusing, insisting. These are functions. All right? These are functions. Remember, functions or speech acts. And you use the flow chart. Disappearing dialogue. The text of a dialogue is written on the board or is projected using an overhead projector. Students practice reading it aloud in pairs, and then the teacher starts removing sections of it. Initially, these sections may simply be individual words, but then whole lines can be removed. By the end of the activity, the dialogue has moved from the board into the learner's memories. They can then be challenged to write it out from memory. Notice, you present a conversation on the board or you project it. Then you make your students practice the conversation in pairs. Then you start removing, notice, you start removing first words, then maybe expressions, then lines. And at the end, you can ask them to write it, how much they can remember. All right? How much they can remember. You can recreate a contest, no? The pair who remember The most is the winner. Again, like a contest, like a game. Notice, that's why nowadays we hear this term, this famous term, no? Gamification. Gamification doesn't mean that we are going to play this specifically games, no? No, we can make these activities like a game, like a contest, no? Because when they play games, so they receive prizes, they compete with other people, and it makes them more catchy, right? Notice here, all right? Now, when we talked about the appropriation activities, we usually talked about a communicative task. No? So speaking is a cognitive skill that becomes increasingly automated through practice. Automated, notice, we'll start talking about autonomy, automated through practice. How? Students have to be distracted from the grammar rules. They need to be able to generate every utterance from scratch. The characteristics. So there's an outcome, this is a result, a product, real time, requires interaction, this is very important, the interaction, spontaneous, not predictable, and no restriction on the language use, you know? But it depends on the level of the student, right? So notice, look at the characteristics of a communicative task, no? So this is more related to communication, no? The most important is the students can communicate. That's why here says that they have to be distracted from grammar rules, no? And also they can be able to generate utterances from scratch. That's why here says spontaneous, all right? They don't need to think too much, all right? And also we have a product with a result. So what do these activities fulfill? Preparing students for real-life language use and encouraging the automation of language knowledge. This is the purpose of these activities. Huh? You prepare your students for real-life situations, real situations that they are going to use the language. That's why we call functions. Encouraging the automation of language knowledge. One of these is the information gap activity. Notice this activity. In information gap activities, the information required to complete the test is distributed amongst the interactants. There is a knowledge gap, a space, you know, something that they need to complete or do. And this can only be bridged by using language. To achieve the test outcome, the interactants have to communicate. I don't know if you have do this activity before. Here you have a spot the difference. Have you ever used this activity? Spot the difference. They need to recognize, you know, here they receive pictures and these pictures are different. They are different. So they start talking about the difference. Oh yeah, here on my picture, no, on my picture, I have a girl playing the guitar and there is a small dog beside her. And the other person, no, in my picture, I don't have a dog. And the person is playing the violin, not the guitar. Notice, they start talking, all right? They start talking. For example, I use this activity. I remember that I worked this, and I used this activity when we talked about continuous tense, the continuous tense. So, oh yeah, the man, the woman is playing the guitar. No, there is a man doing crossword, or there are two people eating. Notice, but you don't tell your students. You give just the example, no? You just give the example, and they start doing, no? They start doing the sentence, and the oh, no, my picture, no. The man is not doing crossword, is writing a letter. You can practice this, all right? This is the information gap activity. So they need to complete something, all right? There is a knowledge gap. There is something missing, all right? And they have to get the result, the outcome, no? By communicating. Info gap race. The teacher pre-teaches some vocabulary that learners can use to describe a sign. Notice a design, sorry, a design. To practice, the teacher dictates a design so that the learners can draw it correctly. The learners do the same to each other in pairs. So first the teacher's model, no? Dictates a design to maybe to the whole classroom, or maybe to one or two students, and they are going to draw it. And then the students interact. The learners do the same to each other in pairs. The class is divided into two teams. This is another idea. And the blackboard is divided in two by a line in the middle. Each team has a representative at the board. The teacher ensures that the two teams' representatives at the board can see the designs, and then selects one and shows it to the two teams. Each team attempts to describe the design to its representative at the board, and the first team to do this successfully so that the design is replicated on the board is the winner of the round. So notice, again, interaction. They are going to describe, notice, they are going to describe a design. For example, I use this when we work with the parts of the face, no? The eyes, the color of the hair, no? The type of hair, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and they start drawing. The other pair, the other student start dictating and describing, and he starts drawing, and like a competition, like a contest again. The game can also be played with simple pictures, for example, landscapes or room interiors. Maybe when you work the parts of the furniture that you have in a house, no? Yeah, in this room there is, and you practice the structure, no? The chunk, there is and there are. There is a small bedroom with one lamp, and there is a TV, no? Or there is a laptop on the desk, no? And they start drawing, right? They start drawing. You can practice also prepositions, no? In, on, under, behind, notice. So they start describing, and they start describing, and the others start drawing, and you can make it as a contest. Service. It involves learners asking and answering questions in order to complete a questionnaire or survey based on a topic that the teacher has suggested or which occurs in the course book. Students prepare in pairs or small groups survey-type questions and then mail around. No, this is similar to mailing. Asking the questions, noting the answers before returning to the original groups to collate the results. A spokesperson from each group then reports the group's findings to the class. whereupon the class decides as a group whether the claim is justified or not. No, so notice here, you have here a survey and also you report this and start a discussion about it. You can work it here with the more advanced level students. Guessing games. What's my line? Which one learner thinks of a job and the others have to ask yes/no questions to guess what it is. Provide ideal conditions for automating knowledge. Okay? So here, one student thinks of a job and the partners, the other students, ask questions in order to guess. So I think you use this because I use this when we work with famous people, no? Yeah, think of a famous person, an actor, a singer, a sportsman, a sportwoman, or a band, yeah, and start asking questions. Is she or is he from, is the person a man or a woman? Yeah, a man, okay. Yeah, is he from Peru? Is he from Brazil? No, so here you have yes, no questions, no? Oh yeah, is he a singer? Is he an actor? I notice that you use this a lot. This is a very common activity. What sort of animal am I? So player A thinks of an animal. Player B has to ask yes, no question to work out what the animal is. Animal could be animal, vegetable, or mineral. No? So they can take the role of a person or an animal or vegetable. You're working with vegetables, fruits. So yeah, think of a vegetable, ask questions. Oh, what's the color? No, and they start asking, no? Is it green? Is it blue? Is it soft? Is it hard? So they start asking questions. Similar to what's my line, but here you're working with other things. Who am I? This is what I told you, no? Player A thinks of a famous person alive or dead, no? So these are similar games, no? Guessing games. So the students need to guess, no? Need to guess by asking questions and responding. Task repetition. One of the activities that we could do here is the onion. The onion. Notice this is to practice speaking in class. Step 1. Put your class into 2 groups, A and B. Notice. Step 2. Have A form a circle in the center of the classroom facing out. Notice, facing out. Step 3. Have B form a circle around A circle facing in towards a partner. Step 4, set a time limit and begin speaking. When the time is up, B shifts clockwise to a new partner and repeat. So this is task repetition. No? So, for example, you're working, inviting someone. Yeah, this is in order to change pairs immediately, no? That they cannot move from chair to chair. No. They make a circle and they turn 2 groups and they change. Notice they shift. Yeah, 30 seconds. Yeah, invite someone to your partner and the other answer. Yeah, okay, yeah, now change. And they move, no? They move, all right? So notice this is a very interesting activity, yeah, that you can do it in order to work in pairs, not to work in pairs. And they do the same. You don't change the function, invite, but they are going to invite different students, all right? Different students. So we call this the onion, remember? The onion. The poster carousel. Students work in pairs or small groups to circulate around the room to answer questions, solve problems, analyze an image or test, discuss a topic, or provide feedback on questions, topics, themes, or problems that the teacher places on poster boards around the classroom. As each group approaches a poster, and discuss what is on the poster, and then write a response to the question or problem on the poster. Then, after another period of time, students rotate to another poster in the room and follow the same process. Now, this is similar to the onion, yeah? But now you're working with posters. And here, notice, they need to answer some questions given by the teacher, or they need to solve problems, or analyze pictures, images, tests, or discuss, or provide feedback. The teacher, notice the teacher places posters with a topic or themes or problems around the class. So each group goes to a poster they design, no? Yeah. First group, yeah, they go to one poster. Then the second group go to another poster. And they start discussing about this poster. Remember, in this poster, there is a problem, a question, all right? And then, yeah, you have 1 minute or 2 minutes to talk about that poster that you chose. Now change, and they move. No, they rotate to another poster and follow the same process. Four, three, two. Students retell a story or monologue within a time limit that decreases at each retelling, thereby encouraging greater automaticity. Notice we're talking here about automaticity. Students are paired and taking turns to do a monologic speaking task. For example, recounting a story or explaining a process based on picture prompts or summarizing a test they have each read. For the first telling, each speaker is allowed 4 minutes. The second time round, they have to achieve the same degree of detail, but in only 3 minutes. And the test can be repeated a third time, but in 2 minutes. Notice you are decreasing the time, no? The time limit is decreased for each retelling, all right? For each retelling. So it makes your students to synthesize, no? They need to synthesize because they have shorter time. So they need to synthesize. So you can work with this with also with intermediate or advanced level students. No? They have enough vocabulary to work with it. Now, the other is the autonomy activities. No, this is the last stage, the last process. Autonomy, we are going to try to differentiate these two terms, autonomy and automaticity. Autonomy is the capacity to self-regulate. Automaticity is the ability to process information in response to stimuli in a way that is automatic and involuntary. Okay? Notice these two aspects and the last stage that is involved in the last stage. Autonomy, capacity to self-regulate. Automaticity is the ability to process the information in a way that is automatic and involuntary. You don't need to think too much. Huh? You don't need to think too much. It's automatically, the words, the expressions, the chunks comes to your mouth immediately. All right? This is automaticity. Now, here we have some activities too, such as presentations and talks. Show and tell. Students talk and answer questions about an object or image or topic of special significance to them. We usually do this activity, no? The other one, did you read about? This is a variant of show and tell and can be done in small groups rather than to the whole class. The stimulus is something I read in paper or hear on the news, rather than an object. In groups, they take turns to relay their news item to the rest of the group. The most interesting story in each group can then be told to the class as a whole. Notice the difference. In the first one, so the students talk and answer questions about something, no? An object or image, a topic of a special significance to them. Here is something that they have read, all right? Or they read before. No, something I read in the paper or heard in the news. And they are going to work in groups. Notice, they work in groups. And then they chose which was the best story. And this story, the most interesting story, is told in front of the class. All right? Notice here these presentations and talks. The other one is the academic presentations. Students who are studying English for academic purposes are likely to need preparation in giving academic presentations or conference papers. Teacher gives the students specific features of the presentation. So this is with more advanced or academic studies. For example, for university students or students who are with other fields, not just teaching, engineers, or lawyers, or doctors, they are studying, so they need to present something maybe in a conference. So here the teacher must give this kind of students some specific features of the presentation. The other one is the business presentations. One way of reducing the pressure of solo teacher asks learners to work in pairs on the preparation of a presentation and to take turns in its delivery. The audience should be given a little time at the end of the presentation to prepare their questions. This, in turn, could be followed by some discussion as to the strengths and weaknesses of the presentation, like a feedback, like a feedback. So notice, here you give a topic, the students present it, and then the audience are going to ask questions, not the teacher, the audience. So the other students are going to ask some questions about the topic, about the theme that the students present, all right? And then they can analyze, they can evaluate, the performance of the partners. That's why here is a discussion of the strengths and weaknesses of the presentation. The other one are stories, jokes, and anecdotes. Guess the lie. Students tell each other 3 short personal anecdotes, 2 of which are true in every particular, and a third of which is totally untrue. The listeners guess the lie and give reasons for their guesses. They can be allowed to ask a limited number of questions after the story. Right? So this is like a storytelling, because they are going to tell anecdotes, stories, personal anecdotes. 2 of them are real, 1 is fake, 1 is false. So the listener guess the lie. Again, you can adequate it. For example, I use this activity, but not as an anecdote or stories, just giving some personal information, all right? Again, if you're working with routines, so you ask, so now you're going to talk about 3 routines, but one of these routines is false, and your partner is going to guess which is false. Oh, yeah, okay, teacher, yeah. So the students start, okay. I go to the swimming pool on Sundays. I do my homework as soon as I get home. I watch TV in the afternoons. Right? Just simple sentences, Here says stories, anecdotes, no? So if it is possible, so you can do it with anecdotes of stories. So the other student, guess, yeah, I think maybe they know each other, they are friends, maybe the other person is going to guess easily. But if the person doesn't know exactly to the other student, so it's going to be hard, no? It's going to be hard. And it's tricky, no? It's tricky for them, no? So you can do that, no? You can adequate it. Insert the word. Students are given a card with an unusual word or expression which they keep secret. They then take turns telling each other an anecdote in which they incorporate the secret item. After that, students have to guess what the word or expression was. Notice this is a kind of difficult, right? So notice here, students are giving a card with some unusual words or expressions, and they keep it secret. They don't show this card. Then they take turns telling each other an anecdote in which they incorporate this secret word or secret expression. After the student has told the story or the anecdote, the other student or the other students, maybe it could be in front of the class, have to guess what the word of expression, the secret word of expression was. Notice, again, this is like a game, no? Chain story. In groups, students take turns to tell a story. This is an activity related to storytelling, no? Students take turns to tell a story, each one taking over from and building on the contribution of their classmates at a given signal from the teacher. So they continue the story, no? They start with some part and they continue, and then they continue and then continue. So this is a chain story, no? For example, you can say, well, you can practice here. Yeah. Now we're going to talk about the past. Okay. Pablo went to the, or maybe this, for example, this is similar to, I did this activity like a game, no? To practice them, what was the topic? To practice them, the containers. No, a box of chocolate, a bar of chocolate, a packet, a bag, no, a spoon, no, a cup, a glass, a bottle. So yeah, let's start. Yesterday I went to the supermarket and bought a cup of chocolate. And the other students is the same, no? Okay, yesterday I went to the supermarket and bought a cup of chocolate and continue, right? And this is a similar, no? This is a similar story, a similar activity to this, no? Here says like a story, no? Okay, yeah, yesterday I was walking, or I was getting back from home and I saw my friend, Steve, and the other person continues the story. And the other person continues the story. Notice this is the chain story. And here you practice, no? Past, or maybe present continuous, or maybe a topics, no? Talks about the environment or a film, no? So you can choose any topic. Another one, party jokes. Students first each learn and rehearse a joke. Practice, rehearse is similar to say practice, that has a narrative element. They then simulate a party, standing up and smiling, and exchanging jokes in pairs or groups of three. They should first be taught some basic joke framing expressions, such as, did you hear the joke about, and that reminds me of the joke about, no, here they start telling jokes, no? They start telling jokes. Maybe you can give them some jokes and they practice, they rehearse the joke. And then you say, oh, okay, now we are in a party and one of you is going to tell a joke. And the person start talking, no? You can do it here in groups, no? 2, 3, no, 4, maybe not too many students, because then they are going to recognize, and maybe they can change groups, no? And at the end, they can choose which was the best joke that they have heard. All right. So again, they can discuss it. Role playing versus simulations. No, we have heard a lot this term, role playing. No, role play. We're going to do a role play and simulations. Can you tell me what's the difference? Role play and simulations. Do you have an idea? What's the difference between role play and simulations? No, nobody. Sometimes we could think that they are the same, no? The teacher they simulate a situation. Role play, yeah, again, they simulated the situation. I think they are the same, but they are not exactly the same. Let's see. Role playing involves adoption of another person when students pretend to be in a situation. Notice, that's why it says a role. So they take a role. They intend to be another person in a situation. For example, no, some of the students could be the father. The father is an ex-hippie. The mother, middleman between father and son. Son applied for the military and is about to tell his parents about his choice. So they are taking a role, no? You are going to create a conversation. You're going to be the father, you're going to be the mother, and you're going to be the son. So they take a role. They tend to be that person, all right? Simulation involves students playing as themselves in a situation. They are not going to be another person, no. They are going to be them, all right? In different situations. What would you do if you were stuck in an elevator? You, not another person, right? You are simulating a situation. And what would you do in that situation? And notice the difference. Role playing is that you adopt a person, another person. You take the role of another person in a situation. But simulation, you in a different situation, no another person, all right? So that's why the difference, okay? And this is a very common example, no? What would you do to work with conditionals, no? The second, the third conditional, no? So you are simulating, all right? You are simulating. Alibi. Two students are accused. An alibi is made between the two while the rest of the class creates questions that they will have to answer separately. No? The alibi. So you give the students some alibis, and the other students start asking questions. And these two students need to answer separately. And then they are going to check the information and could guess who was the person guilty or not. No? The soap. Learners plan, rehearse, and perform an episode of a soap opera. Learners can draw on shared stock of melodramatic situations and can invent their own endings. No? This is for more advanced learner students, no? So they can create, no, a drama or episode of a soap opera. This is more complex or structured conversation. No? Okay, notice here all the different activities that we can do. No? Today we talked about the appropriation and autonomy activities. As I told you before, here I gave you ideas. No? The most important is that you can have ideas and you can adequate it, you can adapt it according to the context, according to the level, according to the age of your students. This is the most important here, right? Now, to finish, I'm going to show you, aside from the other skills, some pages, yeah, some pages that you can practice, or you can find a lot of material related to speaking. Let me show you. Just give me a second. Where is it? Where is it? Oh. Just give me a second, please. I have a lot of web pages. Oh, my connection. Hurry up. My connection today is not so good. I open a lot of web pages. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna give you here the link on the chat. Yeah, here it is. And maybe you can open it with me. Yeah, can you see it? Can you see the link? Yes?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, teacher.
My internet connection is too slow. Oh, just give me a second, please. Yeah, here it is. Here you have some web pages. I'm going to show you one of them. The link that I gave you is a web page that give you some web pages to practice and to use, to find materials to use it in class. So this page that I'm showing you is the Esl Compensation Questions. If you notice here, you have questions to use in your class to start a topic, a conversation. And notice here, are you watching it? Yes, because my connection here sent me a message that is unstable. Yeah, can you watch it? Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, teacher.
All right. Yeah. Notice here, Esl Compensation Questions. Here says, no, if you need compensation questions for your class, you have come to the right spot. All our questions are designed to get the most out of your students' English abilities. Then here you have all question topics, grammar, vocabulary, question from textbooks. Also, if you use some textbooks, you can have it, not all of them, not all of them, but here you have, for example, pathways, sympathy issues, word English, touchstone. This is very common. This book is very common. Top notch. So you can have here some questions from different units from these books. Then you have the teaching resources. For example, I advise you to check that the icebreakers. You have games and activities and icebreaker questions. Remember, they are related to speaking. Also, you have here role plays. Notice ESL role plays, lesson plans, ESL teaching tips and theory, certificates, a list of other ESL EFL websites. So here you have a lot of material. Notice here, 500 grammar conversation questions, 1,000 ESL conversation questions, ESL activities for kids. So you have a lot here, right? So let's check one of them. The icebreakers, for example. Notice. So you have here different activities to break the ice, no? When you have your students are too shy or they don't feel comfortable speaking in English. So here you have a lot of activities, no? Icebreaker questions or speaking activities you think will work best. You have here many activities that you can use it, all right? So you click here and you have all the steps that you need to follow. Preparation, instructions, what you need to do, all right? The same, the other one, no? Paper fight. For example, this is very funny. This activity is very funny, paper fight. Notice, preparation. Think of 3 or more questions. This can be taken from the small talk icebreaker questions. Sheets of paper, 1 for each student. Instructions. Write the questions on the board, Students must then write their answers on the pieces of paper. Students then crumple the paper up into a ball and throw it at each other. So they start fighting with all the papers. They start fighting. Let the fight continue as people pick up the paper balls off the floor and throw them. Yell, stop, you shall stop. And students must pick up a piece of paper and open it up. Students then ask each other questions trying to find the owner of the paper. Once they give the person the paper back, they can sit down. This is like a game again, no? And they start talking and writing. So that's why here says the icebreakers. No? So as you can see here, you have a lot of things. And also on the link that I gave you, you have more web pages. Yeah, more web pages. For example, here you have Fluent U. Then you have here My Speech Class, right? ESL Fast, English Media Lab, ESL Gold. So you have here more web pages. I'm going to give you another link. Yeah, another link here. I'm going to send here in the chat. Oh, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, the time. Yeah, here. Yeah, this is another link. 1 minute English. Practice speaking. Online. Notice. 14 best websites to practice speaking English online. Some for free. Some of them you need to pay it, but try to take advantage of the free ones. Yeah. Here, for example, you have teaching platforms, Cambly, italki, Preply, Languages Changes, My Languages Change, Conversation is Change, Easy Languages Change, Coffee Strap, Lingo Glow. So you have a lot of apps to practice speaking English. It's very important here nowadays. Our students like using apps, Hello Talk, apps for speaking, Elsa, social media, Meetup. So you have a lot here. Chats, notice chat rooms, video games. If your students are here interested in video games, so you have the opportunity here to practice. All right. So notice we have here a lot of material that you can use. You can also use it too, in order to reinforce or improve your speaking or your management of the language. Well, we finish with these web pages. I hope you can use them all, and it would be so helpful to you, for you and for your students. Well, as you know, today we finished the speaking module. Next week we're gonna start with the writing module, and we finish with all the skills. Then the next module is related to vocabulary and grammar. And the last module is related to the ICTs. All right. So I hope you have some information that you could use in your class. See you next Saturday. Take care a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.
Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to and for your participation.